Temitope Gbenro. Temitope Gbenro is the Director, Business Management and Strategy at Center Spread Grey, a consummate marketing communications expert and visionary leader, renowned for driving impactful campaigns and mentoring the next generation of advertising practitioners over the past 2 decades. A passion for authenticity and self-awareness fuels a commitment to empowering others. As an established business authority, Temitope embodies leadership excellence, inspiring confidence and assertiveness in those around her. She believes that effective leadership starts with embracing one's true self and living with purpose. Outside of her professional pursuits, Temitope nourishes her creative spirit through reading, baking, and exploring the arts. She will be speaking at Power Mom Support Circle on unlocking your true potential through confidence, assertiveness, and leadership. Click link in bio to sign up now. This program is brought to you by Power Moms Africa.
Assertiveness and leadership. And these are not concepts that are alien to us. From time to time, in different spheres, I know that we've come across these words, maybe in our leadership roles in church, in our places of worship, in our places of work, wherever it is, in our communities, we've come across these concepts, but we'll be looking at it from a different point of view today. So first of all, I'm going to start with a very short definition of the key concepts. First, we have confidence. Confidence is defined very briefly as a feeling of belief or trust that a person or a thing is reliable. And self-confidence as well is the trust that you have in yourself and in your abilities. So there's confidence on the one hand, and then there's also confidence in oneself on the other hand. Assertiveness is basically communicating with people in a direct and honest manner without being aggressive, without intentionally hurting their feelings or without, intentionally putting them down. And leadership is the ability and action of influencing, guiding, and leading a group of people or an organization. So in a nutshell, these are the things that we want to be talking about today. Like I said, nothing that we haven't heard before, right? But it all starts with intention. You have to go about these things intentionally. Like John Maxwell says, an unintentional life accepts everything and does nothing. Whereas an intentional life embraces only the things that will add to the mission of significance. So being a confident person, being an assertive person, becoming a leader has to do with intention. You might be wondering what intention has to do with anything, but we'll see that in a moment as well. So confidence is all about certainty. You have to be certain of who you are by design. And when you talk about being certain of who you are by design, you might want to question, who are you really? Who do you see yourself to be? Who do you want to be? Do you know who you are? If you don't, do you have an idea of who you want to be? Beyond being Temitope Gbenro, beyond being business management and strategy director, who exactly am I? Who exactly are you? But once you know yourself, that is not the end of the story. You have to then give yourself permission to be yourself by design, like we said. You'll find out that a lot of times you are merely performing in your lives. You're performing different roles. You're performing at being different things to different people. But every performance has to come to an end. You can't spend the entire day performing. There'll be pockets of times where you have to be yourself, where you have to put an end to whatever performance it is. And what do I mean by performance? Performance here means, the different faces that we put on when we are interacting with different people, or when we are in the different spaces, the different compartments that make up our lives. So you go to the office, you perform employee. Who you are as an employee is different from who you are as a sister, for example. But you can't just keep performing. you have to be. You have to be yourself. But what does it mean to be? To be simply means to live, to exist. It means to embody, to be yourself, to release whatever strictures there are, to release whatever guard ropes that you have put in place and be yourself. So for example, when we started this meeting, I think before a lot more people joined in, someone's mic was on and a baby was very displeased about something. And that baby was letting everybody know that I don't like whatever it is that is going on here. Maybe I'm in pain, I'm feeling hot, I'm hungry, or whatever it is. And you can be sure that no amount of saying keep quiet or sorry or shush is going to shush that baby up. That baby is simply being and simply expressing herself or himself. So that is what it means to be, to at all times be fully who you are, to fully embody who you are, and to fully express that embodiment. Being is the truest state of consciousness. And that is what I invite all of us to do more of, to start to do more of today. Like Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. So you can't be a better someone else because that person is already, the original. The best you can do is be the best you that you are. So the most liberating decision you can ever make is deciding to be yourself. But how do you do that? First, you have to consciously decide who you want to be and be her daily. We talked about this a couple of slides ago about being who you are by design. So you have to consciously decide who you want to be and be her daily. But what does this entail? When you ask yourself the question, who am I? What comes to mind for you? When you ask yourself, who am I? How do you define that? If I were to call on anybody now and say, can you tell us who you are? You would most likely hear, my name is Temitope Gbenro. I work in advertising. I do this. It's going to all be in relation to other things. We usually define ourselves in relation to other things. So you're taught to be a good daughter. You know how to be a good sister, a good student, a good friend. You know how to be a good wife, mother. Do you see what I'm saying about the roles that we play, the performances that we get into day in, day out? You know how to be a stellar employee, a good director, a good business owner, a good group head, maybe even a good mentor, a good pastor. But you have never been taught how to be a good you. So when I say, who are you? I don't mean, oh, I'm a good mother, or I'm a good sister, or I'm a good daughter. I'm talking about you who plays those roles. Do you know who you are? Because most times we are taught that we are roles. And, like I said, we define ourselves in relation to other things, to other people. But we are never just seen as distinct, separate individuals on our own. And that is one thing that I want us to, start to think about today. When you talk about who am I want you to start thinking for yourself without necessarily looking at the roles that you play or in all the other areas that you function, who you are really. So the second way to begin to be yourself is to choose new thoughts and new words. And the reason why I've put these together as thoughts and words is that your mind and your words will always agree. If someone were to ask you, how are you doing today? And you say, I'm fine, and you're not, the words themselves will tell only half a story, or will even tell a lie, because the person is able to see on your face that this person is actually fine, or you're just saying you are fine. And if it's someone that, feels the liberty to probe deeper, the person can say, oh, are you sure? Are you really okay? You look down. And that is because even though you're professing words and saying that you're fine, everything else about you shows that you're not fine. So you can't do one without the other. In fact, your thoughts would inform your words, and then your words would go ahead and inform your actions, your habits, and everything else. I'm going to show us a quick video now, and I'm going to hopefully through that video demonstrate, some of the things that we think and some of the things that we say, and how we don't really realize the import of those things. So this is a sponge. It's a dried sponge. I'm sure to some of us, what we are seeing as we are looking at this thing is SpongeBob, right? SpongeBob SquarePants. So this is a sponge, very, very absorbent. And once you start to pour water on it, it begins to soak up that water. It begins to swell. It begins to take in what you're putting into it. So imagine the sponge is your mind. And every day you're telling yourself, man, I fucked up yesterday. Oh. Your mind is absorbing that I'm a fuck up. I could have done better. You're telling yourself, I don't know well enough. Man, I made a mistake there. You're telling yourself, I can't do things right. By the time you do this day in, day out for years, it gets to a point where your mind only believes those things that you keep telling it, those negative things about itself and about yourself. And it's always going to be showing you instances where you messed up, instances where you didn't do anything right, instances where, all of those things that you keep telling yourself are coming true. But you planted those seeds in the first place. Let's take a look at this. Your thoughts and your words can imprison you. Do any of the things on this slide look familiar to you? Are any of these things familiar? What will people say? I can't do this. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have money. It's too late. If only. They don't used to do like that in my family, or we don't do that in my family. Look at where you are. See what your mates are doing. Are any of these words familiar? As a matter of fact, how many of these words have you said to yourself today? Yesterday? In this past week? And the funny thing is, you may not realize that you're saying it because you've been saying them for so long, like the sponge that we saw in the previous slide. It's absorbed it. It's become fully who you are, that you might not even be able to tell that this is the message that you're passing across to yourself. To you, they are just words, but to your mind, they are a pronouncement. And the longer you keep saying these things to yourself, the more your mind accepts them and believes them. And it believes them so much that when you eventually want to break away from them, it will not allow you. So let's say, for example, you've been telling yourself, which one of these things now? Maybe I'm too old. I'm too old to take on new opportunities. I'm too old to try on hobbies or whatever it is. And then someone comes and introduces a new course to you and you want to start, your mind will be like, man, this thing is going to be difficult. We are too old. Is there any need to do this new course? Let's just stay where we are. I mean, we have only like 10 years to retirement. We'll retire in 10 years and be done. I beg, let's just, manage. That is your prisoner turning around to imprison you because of all the ways that you have shackled it, your mind, over the years. So your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. And even though you may not realize it, the reality of the life that you're living right now will give you a clue. It will give you a hint as to the thoughts that you've been cultivating for the longest, the thoughts that you've been cultivating the most. So it is important that we cultivate what matters. As from today, take time to think about the thoughts that go through your mind. And it's going to be very, very difficult because, it's not at every point during the day that you're stopping to think. In fact, you can't even do that. Think about, as you're sitting in this chair, do you have to remind yourself, I need to draw a breath? Do you have to remind yourself to blink? You can't think about everything, but you have to make an effort because you want to make a change to, put in that effort to start thinking about some of the things you think about so that you can catch yourself in those thoughts. Identify the thoughts that you need to change and then make that change. So looking at other things that can act as barriers to being yourself from an external point of view now, we have culture, we have our family expectations, work rules, and religion. Let's talk about the first two, culture and family expectation. So generally in Africa, within the culture, the society is driven by shame and fear. You know, we are raised with a mixture of these two emotions. So shame, for example, you want to do something and your parents will be like, don't disgrace me. What will people think of us? Do you want to disgrace me? My friends' children don't do this. You can't be the one to do this. That is ruling or controlling with shame. And then you have fear. If you do this, I'll beat the hell out of you. If you do fill in the gaps, you will go to hell. I will not give you food. I will chase you out of my house. That is controlling with fear. So there's always a high expectation to conform, right, between these two. And even though you may not realize it, some of the decisions that you make are coming from this internalized shame and fear. Because you know that if you go against the approved path, you are seen as a bad child. And even long after you've stopped being a child, those paths are already ingrained in you, that you continue to steer yourself down those paths without a parent figure or an authority figure telling you what to do or what not to do. So it's no wonder that, you know, you are constantly coming up against these barriers to being yourself. The third way that you can decide who you are, who you want to be, is to choose new habits. This one I'm not going to dwell on a lot because there's already so much out there, so much brilliant and well-researched material about forming new habits. But I will say in brief that when it comes to forming new habits, the most important thing is to identify your why. So you see somebody doing something, maybe in your office, on social media, and you like it and you want to copy it. You start. You're able to keep it up for like a week, and then you drop off the bandwagon. And then, you know, like we saw in those other slides back, you start telling yourself, oh, I don't know how to, or I can't seem to stick to something. But you didn't give yourself the right motivation in the first place. You don't know what motivated them or the reason why they started to do that thing that you just saw and liked and copied. Because the thing is, if something matters enough to you, you will find a way to get it done. It may not be easy, or I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you will find a way to do it, right? So that is the most important thing to consider when it comes to forming new habits, is identifying your why. Secondly, you have to start small. The thing with a lot of us is, and I'm going to use the example of New Year's resolutions. So you want to start doing something new, but you want to start everything immediately. You want to change everything immediately. You have a New Year's resolution list, like 20 items, things you've never done before. Or maybe you only did them for like a month from your last New Year's resolutions list. You now pack everything and you want to start doing it. By week 2, you are tired and you give up and you go back to telling yourself the same things. I can't stick with anything. I'm a failure. I don't know how to do this and all of that. But you set yourself up for that by wanting to change everything. See, one of the hardest things that we can do as humans is change, because change is something that we don't like. Once we get into our comfort zones, once we identify something that works for us, we want to keep doing those things. So in order for you to force a change, you can't want to diffuse your energy and your attention in different places at the same time. You have to stay focused on one thing, and you have to be consistent and give it time. So I've identified here 3 books that are very good resources on forming habits, on making changes. And if you're able to check them out, it would be good. If you've read them, you would agree with me that they are very brilliant books, and they are resources that you should keep going back to from time to time to put into practice. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about here is practice it until you become it. So you've chosen your new thoughts, you've decided who you want to be consciously, you've chosen your new habits. But the fact that you've done all of that doesn't mean it's going to stick. It's going to gum, like we usually say, because you've been this way. You've been doing what you're doing for the past 25 years, for the past 37 years, for the past 40 years. for the past 47 years. What makes you think that just because you decide you want to change, you'll be able to get it done in 1 month or even in 6 months? So you want to take 45 years of being, of thinking, of habits, of thought, of doing things, of identity, and throw it out in 6 months. You go try. But the thing is, when you do it for a month, 2, 3 months, and the change that you're expecting doesn't stick, at that point, you start to think, I'm a failure.
But say, are you hungry?
How to make things stick. Someone's mic is on. Someone's mic is on. But at that point, what you need to remember, which a lot of times doesn't come to mind, is this thing I'm trying to change. I've been doing it for the past 27 years. I've been doing it for the past 33 years. It's going to take a bit more, for it to change. And that is where you usually find people saying, fake it till you make it. But I don't advocate faking it till you make it. And the reason is because you can't deceive yourself. If you're faking something, you would know. And your mind will fight against you for faking something. So you wake up today and you say, oh, I'm going to the gym. Your mind will be like, you and who is going to the gym? I beg, sit down, open Netflix, let's watch. But if you tell yourself, I want to start a fitness habit, I'm going to take a 15-minute walk today. Your mind will wait, be like, 15 minutes is not too bad. Okay, we can try something new for 15 minutes. And will allow you, give you that permission. And you continue to do it in small doses, practicing it until you become it. Because if you try to lie to yourself, you will know and you won't be able to convince yourself. So what will happen is you end up fighting with yourself, whereas what you need to do is to get on board with yourself. So don't fake it till you make it. You continue to practice it until you become it. Like we usually say, practice makes perfect. And by the time you become it, that just becomes naturally the new you. And you have lesser resistance than if you're trying to force something that isn't there, or if you're trying to fake something. So becoming you is not going to be easy, but you have to keep going. Because when you begin to be who you want to be, who you've been will put up a good fight. Like I said, we like our comforts. The things that we are accustomed to, we don't like anything to change it at all, So you now want to shift your mind and your body out of that comfort zone into a new zone. There's going to be a bit of resistance. And that is why you have to keep practicing it until you become it. Now, the resistance is not just going to be internal. There's also going to be external resistance. The people, the systems that have benefited from who you've been will also join in the fight, because you are also making something uncomfortable for them. You're also taking away something from them. And so you have to, it's an uphill task. But if you are serious about discovering who you are and becoming that person by design, you have to keep going uphill and put up that fight. So Will Durant said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Or, like I put it, success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, but what you do consistently. You can't, if you want to form a fitness habit, you can't say, okay, I want to go to the gym today. You go today, you don't go tomorrow. You go on Monday, you don't go till Saturday, and then you're tired and you pack it up, and then 3 months later, because it's the end of the year and you had set it as a New Year's resolution, you remember and you pick up your gym shoes again. That's not what success is. That's not what excellence is. It's daily improvement. It's showing up daily. It's doing things poorly, doing things imperfectly. What we usually hear is anything worth doing at all is worth doing well. But another way to think about it is anything worth doing at all is worth doing badly. Because if you start doing it badly and you keep practicing, eventually you get better at it. You continue to get better until you're able to do it well, until it becomes automatic and you don't even need to think about it at all. So what do all of these have to do with confidence, assertiveness, and leadership? You would think that, I would focus strictly on those in talking about in this presentation. But the thing is, we needed to start from an internal point of view to ensure that everything is right from ourselves before we now start dealing with other people externally, at work, in church, in all the places, all the relationships that we have. So going quickly back to our key terms, confidence, that's the feeling of trust or belief that a person or thing is reliable. Do you see how when you decide who you want to be, when you choose yourself, you are better able to be confident because you're not operating on default. You are operating by design. You already know yourself. You know what you want to put out in the world. And so it's easy for you. You have a compass to guide you. And when you think about the things that you say, the things that you think, when you choose your new thoughts and your words and you practice them, being assertive becomes easy for you because you are able to see when people are trying to bully you or when people are trying to bullshit you. And because you don't allow that, first, because you're not allowing it with yourself, you're able to call them out on it and say, don't talk to me like that, it's not professional. Or, I see what you're trying to say. However, this is another point of view that I want you to consider in bringing a win-win situation. And when you're able to lead yourself, when you constantly commit to doing the things that are difficult, it's easy for you to influence and guide and lead other people. So that is the relevance of everything that we've done up until this point to the topic. Now, moving into, delving into it proper, your professional life should just be an expression of you. We like to compartmentalize, right? So you think, oh, my personal life, my relationship, my financial life, my spiritual life. You are one. You only have one life. And all of those things are just an expression of you. Who you are at work should be who you are at home. So I'm sure a lot of us are having remembrances about the lockdown in 2020 when, we had to work from home. And suddenly you will be seeing your husband in a new light, like, this is not the person that I go to bed with and wake up with every day. The way this person is talking on this Zoom meeting, I don't know this person, right? Or you see the way your wife is leading a team, and it's very different from the person that loves for you to pamper her at home. But that is because we like to compartmentalize. So you don't bring the wholeness of you into anything, but that is not the way it should be. So who you are at work should be who you are everywhere else, because it's basically one aspect of who you are, right? It's just one piece of the puzzle. And one thing that we usually do is we identify ourselves by our work, but you are not what you do. What you do is simply an expression of who you are. So it's important to take care of the whole first, which is what I wanted us to do in the first part of this presentation. So having brought everything together now, I'll run us quickly through the rest of the presentation. And we would see that these three concepts that we're talking about, confidence, assertion, and leadership, are not separate at all. They go hand in hand. If you are not confident, you would not be able to take an assertive position, right? If you are not confident, you won't be able to lead. As a leader, you can't afford not to be assertive. You can't afford not to be confident, both in yourself, in your team's ability, and in the vision that you're trying to sell to the team. So being confident, being assertive, and being a leader are not three separate things. It's not either or. It's all hand in hand. Everything goes together. They're all parts of effective communication. So specifically, how do you master confidence? Now, the thing is, It's not like you don't know how to be confident. You already know how to be confident. The question is not, how do I become confident? The question is, am I willing to become confident? Because it takes a lot to become confident. It takes a lot to become a leader, to become assertive. And as we've seen earlier, when you haven't been a certain way and you start to be that way, there's going to be resistance. So think about the people in your work right now, the ones who run stuff. There's already a pecking order. There is, like an order, the people at the bottom, figuratively, or maybe from a hierarchy point of view, and then it goes up like that. And you want to just come and upend that order like that. Nobody's going to be happy with you. But guess what? You don't need anybody's permission to be who you are, and you don't need anybody's permission to express yourself. So in order for you to master any of these three concepts, it's not the know-how that you don't have. It's the willingness to take on all the side effects, in quotes. First from yourself, because, like we've said, you haven't always been that person, and you don't like to rock the boat. You want to remain comfortable. You want to remain unseen. You want to remain in your own small corner and be okay with doing things the way they've always been. So that really is the challenge. First, you have to start small. So if you haven't always been confident, you want to start small. And starting small could look like maybe changing the way you dress in the office. So you put on a blazer and people compliment you and say, looking sharp. And you don't just say, oh, don't mind me. Oh, no, that is not being confident. If someone says looking sharp, they are giving you a compliment, and you accept that compliment. It's basically a recognition of whatever it is that they've seen in you. So when you're dressing up to go to the office, you want to look your best. You deliberately pick out your outfit, maybe a week before for some of us, maybe the night before for some of us. You match your outfit to your shoes, to your bag. And then somebody now says, Temitope, you're looking good. You're like, oh, don't mind me. Oh, you are lying to yourself. You know how to not look good. Why didn't you dress to not look good to work that day? So after putting in that effort, somebody is praising the effort, and then you're trying to discountenance it. That is not being confident. So you start small. Maybe you don't usually talk in meetings, or if you want to make a comment in a meeting, you write a note and you pass it to your vocal friend. And then that person, makes the comment for you. Raise up your hand, ask your question. Or if you see something that you disagree with, once the person has made their point, raise up your hand and say, I have a different point of view. Can we consider X, Y, Z? Eventually, you start to build that confidence. It's a muscle. And the more you build it, the stronger it becomes, the more automatic it becomes. And you don't have to think about it again. You are able to get into these situations and handle yourself in those situations. The next way is to learn how to ask effective questions. There are some people in your office, I'm sure you know them as I'm talking about them like this. When they raise their hand to say, I have a question, everybody keeps quiet, because the kind of question they ask, even the person leading the meeting had not thought about it. But how can you learn to ask effective questions? It's by being knowledgeable and by being prepared. So if you know about what is going to happen in that meeting, or you constantly update yourself about your job, you will not be caught unawares. You will not be caught with egg on your face. You'll always be prepared, right? And then give yourself credit. Cut out negative self-talk. What do I mean by negative self-talk? Some of us are rookies. Some of us, we are just starting out in this whatever it is, in quotes. Or, for some of us that we don't really have the experience. Let me tell you something. There is no workplace that employs you as a favor. If you weren't adding value in that organization, they would have shown you the door. So you are there because you are adding value. You are there because you are making a contribution. But when you engage in such small talk, negative self-talk, you're distracting from the value that you add. So don't blame people if they see you as somebody who doesn't know anything, because that is what you keep saying about yourself. And then don't be afraid to make mistakes. Find a mentor and practice. Finding a mentor doesn't necessarily mean, you walk up to somebody and say, I would like for you to mentor me. Or if in your organization, there isn't a mentoring program in place, there is that one person, like I mentioned, who when they talk, you listen. You can start to model yourself after them. You can start to pick up their ways of thinking, the way they break down concepts, right? And start to use that in your practice, and that is finding a mentor. So now let's look at how to be more assertive. You stand up for yourself. You learn how to set boundaries. Become comfortable with discomfort. I've talked about this before, and it goes back to the point I made about these things being hand in hand. Strive for a win-win solution. So I remember a case at the office a couple of years ago. A client called us on a Friday and said they had gotten a sponsorship window with a radio station. And so they wanted us to come up with 50 radio hypes to send to them on Tuesday the next week. Now, they called at close of business on Friday, maybe like around 4 o'clock or something. And they said, give us 50 radio hypes by next week, Tuesday. How is that going to be possible? When your initial weekend, So the thing is, I first of all asked for more detail. These radio hypes that you want us to work on, do you want to use all of them next week, Tuesday? The person said, no, the program is starting on Friday. That's next week, Friday. But they want to get all the radio hypes so they can review them, get approvals along their own internal chain of command and all of that and all of that. I said, okay, how about we get you 20 by close of business on Tuesday? And then we can get you an additional 20 by Thursday. You want to start your program over the weekend, right? And then we'll get you the final 10 by Friday. So the first 20 that we send to you, because you're not going to use everything in one program, it's like a 3-month sponsorship. The first 20 we send to you, do the review on those and send back to us. And, on and on like that. And the person agreed. So what we were able to achieve together there was a win for her, because she wasn't going to go back to her bosses empty-handed, and a win for us, because I wasn't going to be disturbing people's souls over the weekend to say, come up with 50 hypes. Client wants 50 hypes. I don't care how you're going to do it. You have to care. Because the people who are going to be delivering the solutions for you, who are going to be delivering your results, have to know that you have their back. They have to know that you care about them. So that wasn't me saying no to the clients. And that wasn't me saying yes to the clients. That was me saying, you want a solution, but let's structure that solution in a different way that works for you and that also works for us. Another thing to consider is to challenge the cultural, social, and gender norms. We talked about this earlier. If anybody is older than you, there is that tendency to not challenge them. Whatever they say is the norm. Whatever they say becomes accepted as law, right? But if you have something to say, someone's mic is on, please. Someone's mic is on. Please, could you turn it off? Thank you. If you have a different opinion, you have something to say. Instead of just accepting, that status quo for what it is. Someone's mic is still on. Thank you. I think it's off now. Work your way up to presenting your own point of view, not as a challenge, not in an aggressive manner, not like you want to rock the boat. Because in order for you to be assertive, you have to look at the win-win, like I said. So you can't go to somebody and be all aggressive and expect to get a listening ear from that person. But you have to become comfortable with challenging all of those things. Become comfortable with the discomforts. Learn how to give feedback and receive feedback. Now, in giving feedback and receiving feedback, and I'm also going to extend this to the way we communicate in the office. So let me give you an example. You want to send an email. You assign someone a task, right? And that task is due in the next 3 hours. And you want to follow up. So you want to send an email. Hello, Tiwalade. Okay. Hello, Tiwalade. I hope your day is going well. I'm just following up to see if you've been able to take a look at, what are you saying? You're not saying anything at all. And true life story, there was a day, this was a couple of years back in another job, not in this job that I'm currently in, where I was expecting feedback from my boss to be able to action something. There was an impending deadline. And I started to write a mail to my boss. I was like, dear sir, I'm following up to see if you've been able to take a look at, or if you kindly look at it at your earliest convenience. And I just said to myself, Temitope, stop being an unprintable word that I don't want to say, on this call. I deleted that entire email and I started over again and got it across in just 2 sentences. Hello, sir. The deadline is coming up. I want to find out if you've been able to take a look at it. Kindly let me know when to get your opinion or when to get your response. Simple. Do you see how that is different from, I trust your day is going well? Perhaps maybe you could in case have been able to look at. Why do we do that? Why do we try and wrap so many words around the things that we want to say? So already you are feeling uncomfortable with wielding authority. You are feeling uncomfortable with being able to tell people what to do. But guess what? You're not telling them what to do, because by reason of them being in that job, they already are in a position. They're already obliged to do those things. So all you're doing is following up with them, engaging with them to ensure that they hold up their end of the bargain so that you are able to hold on to yours. So the thing is, I started telling myself, right, when I'm writing an email or when I'm talking to someone, the more words I use, the more I know I'm trying to avoid what needs to be said. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first, like I said, but the more you practice it, the more you become it, the easier it's going to get for you. And initially, you're going to get a lot of resistance, but just keep doing it. And, eventually everybody will get used to it. And lastly, mastering leadership starts with setting clear goals for the team. You learn how to communicate often and clearly. Empower team members to achieve goals. What do I mean by this? Give them the resources they need. Help them to become more resourceful themselves. Don't micromanage your team. Give them a goal. Don't give them the tasks to do to achieve that goal. Build leaders while you yourself are being a leader. Take responsibility, be accountable, look at the bigger picture, volunteer, keep learning, find a mentor and practice. You see that all those 3 levels have find a mentor and practice. And like I've said, finding a mentor doesn't necessarily mean going up to somebody, having weekly meetings with them. So that basically brings us to the conclusion of this session. And I want us to go away with 2 exercises. So the first exercise is you're going to create rules to evaluate your progress. We're talking about 3 things here: confidence, assertiveness, and leadership. So you create rules for confidence. Why do you need to create rules? Because like I said, you know what confidence looks like. You are just not doing it right now. But you want to be able to be accountable to yourself. And you want to identify when you do take those steps. So beforehand, maybe for the next week, you can give yourself a set of rules. I'll know I'm being confident when I speak up more during meetings. When I call out Fumi if she interrupts me again during the weekly meeting. When I volunteer to do something. When I finish that course that I started during COVID-19 lockdown and I shared the certificate. And the thing is, all you need is evidence. So by the time you keep putting these rules in place and you keep acing them, the next time your mind comes up to say, oh, I'm not confident, you'll be like, that's a lie. I called out Fumi when she interrupted me during the weekly meeting this week. Or you'll be able to say, I don't agree. I spoke up during that meeting. I've never done that before. And the more you're able to show yourself evidence of what you are doing, the more you start to believe it yourself, right? So these are examples for confidence. You do the same for assertiveness. I'll know I'm being assertive when blah, blah, blah. Create your rules. I'll know I'm being a leader when blah, blah, blah. You create your rules. And the beautiful thing is, it's going to be different for all of us because we are all different people. We are all in different situations. It's different challenges that we all need to face and surmount. Now, this one is interesting. Dreams. We all have our dreams. So many. Some have come true, some have not come true. But, you know, we keep trying to add on to the pile of dreams and then we keep working at it small, small. But I think we've dreamt enough, don't you? Instead of focusing on your dreams now, let's focus on your achievements. So between today and the end of the year, there are 74 days. If at the end of every day, between today and December 31, you write down one achievement, one thing that you're proud of, and you put it in a jar, by the end of the year, you will have 74 accomplishments to celebrate. And you know the funny thing, you would only have 74 because you are writing out just one per day, not because you've only achieved one thing per day. But you're focusing on just one to achieve per day. Now, imagine if you've been doing this since 1st of January. You go achieve tire now. Do you want to go over 365 achievements at the end of the year and be reading everything? But like I said, you would have shown yourself the evidence that I am someone who can achieve what I set my mind to achieve. I am proud of myself. I'm someone who can do things that I'm proud of, things that, you know, can build my confidence and reassure me that I know what I'm doing. I have my back. So, daily practice, remember what we said, practice until you become it. Daily practice of these two exercises between now and the end of the year would greatly increase our confidence, assertiveness, and our leadership. I believe so. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Sorry, my mic. I'm getting feedback on my mic. Is it echoing, please? Am I echoing?
Not anymore.
Thank you very much. Sorry, before I hand over the mic to you,
Right, while you're talking, I thought of an incident that happened some time ago. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
At my former place of work, right? Working in an agency allows you dress informally, right? Depending on your work culture and everything. And personally, I'm a sneakerhead. I'm either wearing sneakers or I'm wearing boots, Sanchos to work and everything. And I love it when I walk in boots. Like there's this air of confidence I just have and I command. And people naturally love me. If you meet me, you don't love me, then you have a problem. Because I'm an extremely likable person. And then many times people like, wow, I love your boots. I say, yes, I love them too. Like people like, they're really shocked that I've never seen anyone do this before.
Exactly.
Like who acknowledges they love their thing? Like they've never,
Yeah.
so I always see that look of shock, like an admiration at the same time. This is beautiful. Then there was this particular client. All our past clients eventually end up becoming my friends, right?
Okay.
And she was at the reception. And there's this culture I have. Sometimes the first person they meet, you might not be a front desk person. Like I'm a creative, but every time I have opportunity to meet anyone at the reception, I just try to engage. Have you seen the person here? Okay, what would you like to do? What would you just make friends and just warm up to them? Sometimes all they need is just that one person to convince them to work with that agency. And I was coming from the restroom. I didn't even mean to engage this woman. She was a prospect. And I was just walking majestically as well. She said, like, wow, I love your confidence. I love your boots. I said, thank you, ma. I love them too. She was like, this is, she was really shocked that this is amazing. I've never seen anyone so,
Yeah.
in the positive sense of the word, full of herself. Like, and she was really, really impressed. Like, this is beautiful. And then I got into the office and someone told me, I think that is cocky. How will someone tell you they like what you are wearing and they are saying you like them too? That is
You
cocky. I
like
said,
it
well,
too.
I'm sorry. That is not my business. I love them. I love them. She was just stating the obvious and I was affirming what she said. So for someone, I was a senior at the point, but imagine I was a junior person. How would someone be able to handle such person in that kind of environment? Imagine that person is your superior, right? How would you step into your power, own your confidence, and still not come across as being too cocky, or trying to, like, there's something Robert Greene said, that is Sun Tzu's first law of power: never outshine the master. Sometimes when you're a naturally confident and charismatic person, you tend to unconsciously outshine maybe your superior, and that can put you in trouble. So for someone who's just starting out, for instance, and might be listening, how would such a person handle confidence and not come across as being cocky or too arrogant? Yeah.
Okay. So for someone who is just starting out, there is a way that you can accept compliments without deflecting.
Sorry,
Even
I
if
can't
you
hear
don't have,
you.
can anyone else hear me? Am I audible, please?
Yes,
you hear me?
we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks. So there is a way that you can accept compliments without deflecting, even if you have the confidence to fully own. So in your case, someone is telling you, I love your boots, and you say, oh, thank you, I love them too. The way to deflect will be like, these old things, boots that I've had for 10 years. That's deflection. But a simple thank you is accepting that compliment. And is recognizing the effort that you put into it, the brilliance of putting that outfit together in such a way that it works without necessarily making the other person feel one type of way. And if someone pays you a compliment and you say, thank you, it's intentional, or thank you, I like them too, that is not enough for the person to make you feel like, oh, this person is cocky, right? But we're all different types of people. And you just have to know the kind of people that you're dealing with without necessarily dismissing who you are to make room for them. And that is another thing about assertiveness. You take responsibility for yourself. You take responsibility for your thoughts, your actions, your words, without necessarily trying to make the other person feel good. How they feel, what they think is not your responsibility. But at the end of the negotiation, because communication is all about negotiation, at the end of the negotiation, you would have won and they would have won without you trying to make them feel good. An example is this, like I said, I was going to send an email to my boss and say, yes, sir, could you perhaps at your earliest convenience, that would have made him look good. But that is dismissing myself, number one. That is also deprioritizing the work that I'm doing. I'm not your babysitter. It's not my place to be packaging words to make you feel good. No. But being direct is very simple. And note that being direct is not being pompous. Being direct doesn't mean being rude. It's not being discourteous. It's not being aggressive. It's simply being direct. But it comes across a certain type of way because, again, going back to the culture, in this part of the world, there is a way that, you wrap things, you wrap them. Instead of just saying, I don't like what you did, though, you're like, I didn't really feel. No, come out right and say what you mean. When you say what you mean, number one, there is lesser risk of miscommunication. And number two, you are better able to let the person see what has gone wrong and giving them more of an opportunity to either not do that again next time or to reframe their own words. I hope that answered your question.
Yes,
Bye.
it did.
have a
You did
question on
so
chat.
beautifully. So sorry, I couldn't hear you at some point. I had to switch to
I
another
have
browser quickly, but
I
I
have
was
a
able to get
question
a lot
on
from
the
what
chat
you said.
box.
So someone else has a question.
I think someone
Yes,
is
yes.
speaking.
Can you hear me and realize as if your
Yes,
network,
sorry.
there's a lag from your end, Ari?
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Harriet,
Okay, I
I
think
Can
can
hear
hear
you,
you.
yes.
yes. I think there's a lag from your end, Ari. Hi, I don't know. I put up a question on the chat box, and
Oh, I
I like
haven't
to
been looking at the
say,
chats.
yeah, I like to say thank you so much, Temitope. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Yeah, so in as much as I agree, so let me use maybe your example for instance, or go in the same route. I used to be very assertive, and I really speak my mind a lot. But I discovered that I somehow started gathering enemies at my place of work because I don't know how to call black pink. I don't know how to call pink blue. When I see something, I say the way it is. It's as though as if I see something that is going to go wrong, and I immediately call it out, telling my peers or my colleagues that, guys, this is what's going to happen. Let's watch out, and let's re-strategize and see how we navigate through this or something. But I
Okay.
discovered that not even only at workplace, everywhere, whenever I do that, I tend to breed more enemies than friends, or than, well, I really don't need so many friends anyway. But at least people just tend to see you as if your own is too much, you overtalk, and that's why sometimes I get confused. Where do you really draw the line? Because I mean, you don't want to breed enemies everywhere you are going to, because maybe you are really speaking the truth, and it's not as if I come up. I'm not a rude person. I
Mhm.
say it as polite as possible. But I notice in this part of the world, people don't like the truth. Even in Nigeria, as we are right now, everybody knows what's going on, but they will still pass by the side, by the middle, by the left, by the angle, and leave the truth in the middle. And we
Yeah.
never hit that truth. So, as a corporate, as someone working in a corporate job, and expecting promotion, and at the same time, you don't want to be on a bad note with your boss. You don't want to look as if when they call your name in some rooms, some people say, oh no, because you may not be in all the rooms that they call your name. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Apart from the blood of Jesus, advocating for us, sometimes you also need goodwill and the rest. You need trust and your job to speak for you. Still knowing the fact that some people will still be in that room that may not really like your guts. Do you understand? So where do you draw your line so that you don't make enemies? You don't also come up as, that girl's own is too much. Abi, now only she did that kind of thing. Where do you really draw the line? Because this thing is easy to say, oh. It is in the doing, oh. Do you understand? So that's
Yeah.
what I just want to ask. That where do you me? I'm a middle line manager. I have people under me. I also have people above me. I'm managing my peers. I'm managing my subordinates. I'm also managing my bosses. So where do you really draw that line that you don't sound as too rude, and you don't sound too stupid, or you are too quiet? Where do you really draw the line?
That's an awesome question. That's an awesome question. And I like the fact that you talked about where you are situationally in the structure of the organization. So it's going to look differently for different people on the hierarchy. Obviously, when you're just starting out, you're not drawing any lines with anybody. That doesn't mean you don't know who you are, and that doesn't mean you're trying to disown yourself, right? To be able to make other people comfortable. At any point in time, regardless of where you are on the hierarchy, who you are should never be compromised. There should never be a situation where you are sacrificing who you are to make other people comfortable. And this may sound unrealistic, especially in 2024 Nigeria, but you don't have to work everywhere you find yourself. I think if you start with that premise, understanding the fact that you're going into an organization to add value, how you see yourself, how you carry yourself becomes different from the viewpoints that we typically take a lot of the times, like, I need a job, I need money, I need to earn. One makes it easy for you to undercut yourself, to dismiss yourself, to not be who you are, to not bring the whole you to the organization. The other one makes it easy for you to be a problem solver. I am bringing value. I am bringing solutions. Now, somebody who is bringing value doesn't need to prove every point. You don't need to prove a point to bring a solution. You just need to bring the solution and the point proves itself. So if, and I'm mindful that I'm talking to a wide range in the audience here, people who are maybe just starting out, people who are in leadership positions, people who are in mid leadership positions. If you constantly add value and bring solutions, you will become known for that. And this may have happened to some people on this call. Please let me know in the chat if it's true. Sometimes, right, all of the office politics and all of that funniness, they can take it away from you, not involve you in it. But the only thing that they expect from you and they come to rely on you on is the work that you know how to do, the value that you bring, the solutions that you bring. So you don't have to prove a point to anybody. You don't have to, they say, oh, he's blue, but you see he's pink. You'll be like, if you say so, and you go and do your work, and you bring the work, at the point of delivering value, is not whether it is blue or whether it is pink. That is important. And this will be more useful for people who are just starting, and who are just climbing up the corporate ladder. For middle management and executive level, if you want to remain in that organization, again, like I said, you don't have to work everywhere you find yourself. But trying to ingrain yourself into the fabric, into the culture of that place may require you to play some politics. But there's a difference between forming relationships and playing politics. And I always go for the former, because forming relationships is authentic. If you care about people, it can't be hidden. You can't hide that stuff, the fact that you care about people, versus just wanting to look good. And I'm not saying that this is not going to cost you some opportunities, because it will. Because the culture that we are in, not just even from the work environment, even societal itself, is a showmanship culture. You want to show face. You want to be seen as one of the big boys, big girls. You want to be seen as, on that upper echelon of society. But then again, it goes back to, who do you want to be? Consciously decide who you want to be and be her by design. Do I want to be somebody who, whether it works with me or it doesn't work with me, I want to be seen in the right circles? And I'm saying this as somebody who is very, very comfortable with going against the grain. I am. If something doesn't work, I will say it doesn't work. And I will also say that I think the most important thing that we should focus on here is the result, or is the solution, or is this brief that you've given us to work on, or is this goal that you've set for us. In this goal that you've set for us, X, Y, Z will not work. X, Y may work if we combine it with A and B, but I disagree that X, Y, Z in this order will work. How will you be able to tell me then in that situation that I'm not looking out for you? Of course I am. Because what I'm trying to achieve is making you look good by helping you achieve the objective that you've set for me as your communications partner, as your agency partner. So it's not in all cases that being liked would be the solution, but the people that you're working with, whether within your agency or outside your agency, need to know that you're on their side. And being on someone's side does not necessarily mean liking them or saying yes to everything or laughing at all their jokes. No. Or being their friend. You can be friends with people, or rather you can work with people without being their friends. All you need to do to work with people is be civil and be respectful. If you are civil and you are respectful, I'm seeing a question now. How do you draw the line between being assertive and sound rude? If you are civil, that can be you not taking nonsense, but you are not being rude. I will give you an example. So I said it in passing during the meeting, but I've been in several situations. And you know, when you first start in a new role, maybe it's a promotion. That role can be a promotion. It can be a lateral move within your organization. So maybe you were in ops, you were moved to comms or something. It could be a new organization. People are going to test you. They want to know if you are the kind of person that they can put your head under armpits, like we usually say. Or they want to know if, would this person be in my corner? But that is not the time for you to start picking corners because you don't even know what you're dealing with at that point in time. So people are going to come across as testy. They're going to talk to you anyhow. You can be civil without being rude. But there's a story I like to tell. And if time permits me, I'll quickly tell it, in a bit. Sometimes you have to give them the energy that they are bringing to you in order to stop their rubbish. And that is it. So I was going to start at a job, and the person that I took over from mentioned one particular individual and said, watch out for that guy. We'll call him Nuhu. Watch out for Nuhu. He can be an asshole. Exact words, except for the name, which I've changed. So watch out for Nuhu. He can be an asshole. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. But Nuhu hasn't been an asshole to me. So I'm not going to come at him as, I've heard that you can be an asshole. I'm just waiting for you. No, not at all. Because you haven't been an asshole to me. But the day you try to be an asshole to me, that is when we'll now dismantle it. Right? And true to type, Nuhu, it took him some time. Maybe like 3 or 4 attempts. The first 3 attempts, we dealt with it civilly. Like I sent an email saying, the client has asked for XYZ. You did not do it. And then the repercussion comes up. And then I'm pointing it out in a meeting, a review meeting, to say, but I mentioned this in my email and I even sent you reminders. And then Nuhu goes, what, do you expect me to apologize? I said, it's not my place to tell you to apologize or not to apologize. What I'm trying to say is that what you did not do has been called out by the client now, and the client is displeased about it. What is the solution that you are bringing to this? That is me being not rude. That is me being not drawn into his, do you want me to apologize game? But sticking to the issue and addressing the solution. And eventually he did that thing. Of course, he still felt to me to go back to the client and say, no vex, no vex. But I got the guy to do what he didn't want to do and wanted to turn it into a fight. But there was one day, it was a rougher fight. Rougher fight. And the thing is, in as much as you're trying to be civil, you're trying to not be rude, don't be afraid to get into a fight if it comes to that. Because there are some people that is the only language they understand. That is the only way you earn their respect, especially if you're a woman in leadership position, surrounded by men. What are we talking about? Every step they will belittle you until you show that you can bring that same energy that they are bringing. So the fact that I've not been fighting or the fact that I've not been jumping up and down since all these days doesn't mean I lack the ability. See, this is ability. So next time you want to try it, you will know the ability is there. Do you understand the point I'm making? You don't have to be rude. Doesn't mean if it requires you to be rude, you do not be rude. But that doesn't become your go-to response or your default response. Did that answer your question, Harriet?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
It's
much.
really
If you
please
permit
you
me, please.
really
If you permit
not
me,
stay long. And
if you
next
can
week I
permit
said
me.
I've learned so much.
Thank you very much.
Very close to be assertive and be how do I don't want to say civil kind of right. The drawing line is actually big. You don't owe anyone just whatever you call it out and then. So that's actually what I'm to learn because like you mentioned, our lot as women, you're so pardon my info. Do you get that? I remember a place to work and someone said sometimes you lead someone past the point your nose gets down. Something like that. Get to that point really like what and I feel sometimes everything but don't have anything they're bringing so they have to make up for it. And it's really, really important for us to own and step into our power and excellence that we are employed so much.
Thank you very
And
much.
we are
If
so
you
honored
permit
to have
me, I want to do something before we leave, before we round this up. So if you remember exercise 2, I came prepared though. A jar. Yeah. And this is not a fancy jar. This is a jar of mayonnaise. Right now in your house, you have a jar. It can be a jar of, I don't know, chin, jar of jam. It doesn't even need to be a jar. Maybe a container, empty butter container, margarine, whatever it is. So I've come with my own jar to show you that I'm serious about this. If you want, you can borrow your child's art supplies and dazzle it up. I don't feel the need to. And I've written my today I'm proud of here. So this reads, today I'm proud of myself for speaking at the Power Moms Conference. I've dated it Saturday, 19th October. Yep. And that goes
that's
into
so cute.
So I want us to do something, right? On the 31st of December is usually very into my job. It's usually very busy. So maybe like, I don't know, 29th, 27th, sometime between the last 3-4 days to the end of the year. Bring out your jar. Get a glass of wine, a bottle of Zobo, whatever it is, yogurt, whatever it is. Bring out your jar and dump it out and start opening them up and reading. And you would see that you are actually able to make that change that you haven't thought that you would be able to make in the past how many years. In just 74 days, you would see all of the things that you've done, all of the things that you've been able to accomplish. And the reason why you would see it is not because you haven't always done them, but because, number one, the voices telling you that you can't do them are louder than the voices telling you that you can. So it drowns that out. But secondly, and more importantly, you are showing yourself evidence. Evidence doesn't lie. So if you see the evidence that I'm able to do this thing, you start to believe in it. It starts to become second nature. And you start to do away with all of those other voices and you begin to become the new you, that's you that we're trying to put in place by design. Thank you very much.
Ibukun Omololu. Ibukun Omololu is the principal consultant and lead researcher of the Teal Tree Company, a gender consulting firm focusing on closing gender gaps and driving socio-economic development across communities and nations. With over 18 years of experience, she's led impactful projects globally, including initiatives for women in agriculture and business, promoting financial inclusion and literacy that has benefited over 6,000 women and several institutions. Her expertise spans consulting, advisory, and capacity building for development agencies, private sector organizations, and financial institutions. Ibukun is also a passionate advocate for women's development and financial literacy, hosting webinars and producing podcasts that empower women to amplify their influence. An award nominee and sought-after speaker, she has addressed various prestigious platforms and authored 3 books demonstrating her passion for gender equality and women's development. She will be speaking at Power Mom Support Circle on the Career Reboot Blueprint for ambitious women on a career break. Click link in bio to sign up now. This program is brought to you by Power Moms Africa.
All right, so the brief I was given was to talk to you about the Career Reboot Blueprint, right? Especially for mothers who are taking a break. And I really felt this would resonate with you, particularly because I have been a mother who had to take a break at a point in time. Not necessarily because of childbirth, but then at a point in time, I had to take a break from my family, reevaluate, to rest. I think somebody is unmuted. Please mute yourself. Thank you. So, and looking at it, I started to think, okay, so it's not a big deal. I can do this. And then after I started to do the deck, because I'm a trainer by nature, or should I say a teacher, I always want people to get the best of it. I started to think like, okay, I think Ariella set me up and all. But looking at it again, I was able to link it to a lot of the things that I currently do as a gender expert. And I want to tell you that the next few minutes would be a very interesting time for you. I want you to go along with me because it's going to be very practical. And I'm going to be asking you questions, and you can feel free to share in the chat, okay? All right. So we've already done the introduction. I'll just get into a bit of housekeeping, but this is just the agenda of what I'm going to do in the next 45 minutes. Set the objectives, and then we'll get into the workshop itself, understanding your journey, the starting point, and then relaunching your career with a clear vision. And then we'll get into conclusion because I always like to leave my audience with reflections as well as resources that can help them. And then we'll get into questions and answers. So when Ariella reached out to me about Power Moms, I was very excited about what she was doing. And she was very specific about the objective. The objective was to empower you to revive your confidence, refresh your skills, and relaunch your career with clarity and purpose, right? And I think this is very important. And I was very excited when I heard the last speaker speaking a lot about your accomplishments and a whole lot of things that builds your self-efficacy. Was all speaking. I love talking about self-efficacy a lot, right? And I'll get into it more as I get on in the presentation. But it really speaks about your self-efficacy, your belief in yourself, your belief to be able to do things and believe that you can actually achieve and make a success of what it is you're doing. And one of the best ways to develop self-efficacy is to do hard things or things you feel that you've not been able, you feel you're not capable of doing, but actually doing it. It builds your self-efficacy so much. It goes beyond confidence. It speaks into self-esteem. It speaks into inner strength. It speaks into capability. So basically, the outcome of this workshop is to help you define your career or the career break and how it has impacted you as a person, right? Because oftentimes a lot of us do not sit down to evaluate and to see at what point we are and where we want to get to and how things are happening, not necessarily to us, but for us. And then next is to rightly evaluate your career within the context of your situation and provide a reference point for growth. For several people, I feel like they are living asleep, right? They don't necessarily live awake per se. They're just going with the flow, and you are not being intentional or deliberate or strategic about things in life. So this would really help you to evaluate your career and within the situation you're in. Next, it will help you develop a deeper understanding of your person and your purpose, especially as it relates to your career. And then it will provide a relevant and relatable insights as well as tips to help you relaunch your career with clarity and purpose, because it's very important for you to have clarity and purpose. And you don't need to have all of it at once. It's okay even if the journey gets clearer as you go, because that's actually the way God operates. Then anybody really can use these tools, right? Beyond the fact that you're new moms and all, I feel like anybody can actually use this training and these tools and this deck to change their career and to change their lives, provided that they're committed to it, they're intentional. I'm going to be using the word intentional a lot. I know it has been abused so much that sometimes we don't even understand the meaning anymore, or we've watered it down so much, but I'm going to be using it a lot. So being intentional, being consistent, and being patient, because what they don't tell you is that sometimes this thing takes time. And so we have to be very realistic. The first part of this is really understanding your journey. And the hot button issue here is that 7 to 10 women, okay, have acknowledged that career breaks really have made them less confident in their careers and diminished their self-assurance. And the bottom line is that a lot of us feel that career breaks are, it's just one of those things, but we have certain emotions that are tied to it that some of us have not even addressed. And the truth of the matter is, this thing comes with our beliefs, what people have told us, how we perceive life, and then it affects us because we ultimately bring it into our families, into our career, and we project so much fears into our life. Sorry, is that for me or somebody is unmuted?
I can't find the person. Please, if you're muted, kindly unmute. I can't find the person here.
Okay.
Please unmute yourself.
Can I go on?
Yes, you can go on. I meant mute
Okay.
yourself. Yeah, go on.
All right, great. So basically, this kind of um, feelings come with having a career break. So first of all, a career break is not the end of your career. It is not the end of your life. It is just a certain unpaid time of work. And I think in defining what a career break is, it really helps us to understand where we are, why we got to that place in the first place, as well as how does being in this place make me feel, and how can I address it. And in doing that, it's very important to define what career break really is. And it is just unpaid time of work for, it could be months, it could be years, but this is time that you are taking to use purposefully and productively for yourself. Now, it could be voluntary, meaning that it is you were the person who decided to, resign or to take some time off. It could be sabbatical in some fields, depending on the career line that you're in. It could be a study leave for some other people. And it could just be that maybe someone was laid off or you were told to go and all. And that one is actually one of the most, the one that impacts people more, because they tend to see rejection as them not being good enough rather than a career decision that was taken over them. So it's very important for us to define what is this career break actually. Oftentimes, the feelings associated with career breaks is guilt, right? It's guilt for a lot of women because they feel like, exactly. Thank you, Inyade, for being vulnerable. My greatest fear is how to get back in now that I'm ready, as I feel I'm lagging behind. Exactly. To me, a career break is a period of self-evaluation and positioning myself in my career. So the predominant feeling with career breaks, most women feel is that they've lost their sense of identity. First of all, they feel like they're stepping away from something they've always known, something that defines them. And then all of a sudden, this is taken away. Then there's anxiety and the fear of falling behind, which also feeds into what, sorry, I'm trying to get her name, which also feeds into what Onyi said now about getting back in, right? Because you've been out for a long time, so you feel like I might be out of touch. The fear of getting back in. How do I even, start all over again? But Tom says I felt stuck in a box when I had my career break, but what kept me going was my skilled job. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Many times we are overwhelmed with domestic life and there's hardly any time left to upskill. Exactly. So there could be a bit of guilt around, it's when this child came now that I can't move ahead and then I have to deal with this. But at the same time, you're dealing with it as a new mother that, hey, this is a new life. I just gave birth to this child. I should be happy about this. So there's a lot of bittersweet with it, right? At the same time, there's also positive. For someone who has been in a toxic environment and then you have to leave, right? It's like relief for that person. It's like, this is the time off that I need. Let me just go and rest away from these people. For some other people, it's fulfillment and purpose, particularly when they don't enjoy the jobs they do. So it's really about fulfillment and purpose for them. Like, let me just take this break. Let me go and take some time for myself. Let me go and rest and all. For some others, it could be hopefulness, especially when you are leaving your career to take care of a sick one, or maybe you are recovering from an illness or an accident or an ailment. I've had an opportunity where a colleague had to leave work because of an ailment, and it was a career break for almost 7 years of his life, you know. And it even had to relocate out of the country totally so that he could have a brand new start, a brand new fresh. So a lot of times we don't evaluate how we feel about these things, right? We don't decipher it. And then we just go through the process and then we want to get back into the workplace. And it doesn't work like that because it's very important for you to know. Now that we've defined what a career break is, you also need to know your why. And your why helps you to decipher things well and also gives you the power to spring back even in the workplace. I already spoken about how some people feel, but what led to the career break is very, very important for you to have that. Not just because you're deciphering, but also because it helps you to be able to frame properly for interviews by the time you are getting into the next phase. So what is your why? For some people, they rest, they take the career break to rest because of burnout or to reduce work-related stress. And trust me, I had a friend who was talking about her colleague, right? He was in a toxic environment that by the time he left the toxic environment, he needed therapy for a lot of months before he could get himself to get into another job. I also have a very close friend who had to go through therapy because of what they had gone through in the workplace. So it could be burnout, it could be toxicity, it could be reducing work-related stress. And if this is one of the reasons why you took a career break, then there's no need for you to be feeling guilty or to be feeling left behind or any one of those things because our journeys are all different. For some other people, it is to raise children and to spend time with their family. And even if this is your reason, right, you don't need to look down on yourself because sometimes culture makes us feel like you need to feel guilty because you're a mom, right? And some other people make you feel, especially when you see women who are strong, who are in the workplace and who have had children and are doing things. Let's establish the fact that we're all different people, right? There are people who will go through pregnancy and it turns them upside down. There are people who will go through pregnancy and they have great support structures. And so that upside down, you might have felt she is not feeling that way because she has great support structure. And so because of that, she's able to navigate maybe the workplace better and all. So we need to be able to analyze these things very carefully because then it now helps us to understand why we are where we are, right? And why we got there in the first place. So The next one is to care for ill family members or to recover from an illness or an accident, right? And this could also be um, life-threatening, and it helps you to you actually have to leave the workplace to get yourself together. And this is not something anybody should feel guilty about. This is not something anybody should feel um, um, left behind about. I even get anxiety in terms of, hey, by the time I'm gone, by the time I come back, would I still be able to get through it? And we'll still talk about that. But these are the reasons why. For some people, they just want to start a business. They've never really liked the workplace, but they want to start a business. And so they take that career break and say, hey, I can always come back to this some another time, or even come as a consultant, but I want to go start a business. And then they take that career break. And then for some other people, it could be to advance their education or to expand their skill. And I'm already glad that quite a number of people have written about skills here, what they are doing to fill in the time and all. For some other people, it's to travel or to work abroad, and they take the career break. And I'm sure you've heard of so many people who were like managers or big girls in Nigeria, and they went to UK and some other places, and they had to start from the scratch, like janitors or retail sales agents in the supermarket and all of that, you know. And that could look like a dent in their career, but it also depends on how they look about it, the skills they are gaining from that, and how they are able to frame it for the future. And then for some other people, it could be to study or to go and train at school. It could be some expertise of vocational skills or to even reevaluate their career. And so it's very, very important for us to determine, how did we get here, right? And how does that make us feel generally? What emotions are related with that? And then how can I deal with these emotions? Because those are the things that make you feel bad, like, I took a career break of 2 years, or I have lost some time. No, you haven't lost any time. It's basically how you look at it and what got you into that place and how you can frame it to move you forward. Are we together? If you're following me, please put a thumbs up in the chat. Thank you, Anyade. Okay, so the starting point, you've determined your emotions, you've determined how you got where you are. Now you want to get into the workplace again. What is the starting point? Because a lot of us just jump into things without preparation. Oh, I want to get into a new job. Oh, I want to start my career again. But you haven't analyzed. And a lot of times we women need to really reflect. We really need to think about what it is we're doing before we get into it, right? So what are the steps to rejoin the workforce? And this is where I'm going to break it down nitty-gritty. First one is self-assessment and defining self-purpose. First of all, why are you going back into the workforce? And these are questions you need to ask yourself, right? At the time when you took the break, you determined, right, that it was a break, right? But did you determine what kind of industry you were going back in? Did you want to go back into the industry you were coming in, the industry you had left from, and you want to go back into it, or you want to transit to another industry entirely? And in doing that, one of the self-assessment you can do is to really define who you are. What are you about? And so I'll say my story here. I started in advertising, moved into travel, as a reservation and ticketing officer for an airline, got into customer service in consulting, and then moved into banking, where I decided to stay for some time because I've been transitioning too much. And I wanted to build a career. It wasn't because I liked banking. It was just because it was a job I got, right? And so I started to do banking. But one thing I knew was that whatever my hands find to do, I would do it well. But at the time I was going to leave, I realized that I was living with my eyes closed. I was living asleep. I wasn't living awake. There was no strategy or intention behind a lot of the things I was doing. And by that time I was leaving, I would say that I had actually found my passion, what I really loved to do the most, which was gender, which was gender work. And I found it by being in banking because I started to head the women banking desk. And then I started to do a self-assessment of myself, like, what am I really about? What matters to me? What is my purpose? What are my core values as a person? And how does this define me and the work that I do? Because for me right now, I don't do just any work. I do assignments. It's something that aligns perfectly with my values. It's something that aligns perfectly who I am because I have defined who I am and I have defined my purpose. Now, this self-assessment, by the time I sat down to do it, I got some of my journals even when I was 16 years old, and I had written as far back as I was 16 years old on a couple of lines. I'm sorry, I meant to bring that journal to read that part to you, but I forgot. And so one of the things I had written out clearly was that I was going to be working with women, with children, and with families. And I was going to be defining identity, reshaping values. This was something I wrote as a 16-year-old girl, reshaping values and clearly aligning some of the things that I was going to be doing with them. By the time I did that assessment, my mind was blown because I was like, I wrote this as a 16 years old. Jesus Christ, what did I do with my life? But it all aligned at the end of the day. But it was very clear to me what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, what field and what industry I wanted to be in. At that time, it wasn't very, very clear per se, because I mean, gender was still very novel. People saw it as advocacy. Oftentimes when you see people doing gender work, they're like, hey, advocacy, women empowerment and all. Let me tell you, there's a whole lot more to gender than that. So at the time, I wasn't clear what that trajectory really looked like, but I knew that I was very clear that it was gender. And it was something at the intersection of gender finance, because it was something I had done, gender parity, as well as gender-based violence, because those were some of the things that I had worked on, even in the bank. And so by the time I needed to redefine my career, right? I had to look for someone, I had to look for people in the gender space who looked like where I was going. And most of them were white. I really didn't see Black or Africans who really defined it for me, because it wasn't a very clear path. And so it's very important for you to self-assess and ask yourself, what am I about? What are my core values at the core of my being? And what does that lead to? And for a lot of you, you might have to do a bit of research. You might have to go look at the future of work, the skills of the 21st century, right? Look at those skills and see what kind of career or jobs require this. And I'm going to break it down a bit more for you. When I started to do gender, I realized that I was leaning more towards gender consulting. And I bet a lot of you are like, what is gender consulting? Wait. I realized that some of the skills I required for gender consulting was in being analytical, right? No, let me break it down first. The first step was in being observatory. You have to be able to see things, right? You have to be able to capture things and see things from the moment you're meeting with the customer. From the moment the customer is speaking, you're listening to what the customer is saying and what they're not saying. You're looking at their body language. You're looking at every other thing that they're not saying and what they are saying, okay? Because you're going to be using that to analyze and to synthesize your findings at the end of the day. Two, you're going to be thinking about how you can get people together in terms of surveys, in terms of focal group discussion, in terms of design thinking. If I'm going to do a focal group discussion, what is the research topic? What is the concept need? What am I trying to get out of this? How should this conversation be framed? What are the questions I am going to bring out of that? And how does it align with the concept note as well as the research I am trying to do? It's a form of design thinking. Next, by the time I get all of that, there's critical analysis where I am now synthesizing all the things I have done from the diagnostic I did as a gender specialist with the focal group discussions or key informant interviews that I have done, synthesize that information such that it makes sense. It is actually diagnosing a problem in the institution or in the project or in the process or product that I am doing, such that by the time I present it back to the customer, it is a self-reflection of what they have given me, and they can totally agree with it. Now, all of this I'm saying is still self-assessment and defining self-purpose, because this speaks to the work that I do. So some of you will need to go back and say, who am I at the core of my being? What are my skills tending to? Where is it leading to? My skills tends mostly to women. It tends to families. It tends to children. And if I'm going to shock you, the spiritual aspect of it, right? Even my name, even my surname speaks to family. Omololu. Some of you need to go back, right? Because it's a very spiritual thing. We do not just work. It is an assignment. So what assignment are you going to take for the rest of your life? And it starts with this self-assessment and defining self-purpose, because a lot of us just jump at, hey, what's the next big organization that will pay you, right? And then we get into it. And then we find out it's a toxic environment. And then they imprint things on your soul that it takes you years to get out of you. Next, you need to assess the skills and update knowledge. And I think I kind of explained that a bit with finding out who are the people in this space. What are they doing? What are the skills required to be here? What are some of the trainings they've done? What are some of the schools they went to? And LinkedIn is your best friend. You find these people on LinkedIn. So if you say you're a data analyst, who are the top data analysts that you are following on LinkedIn? What kind of certifications have they done? Look at those certifications. What does this certification help you to do? How does this update your knowledge? And how does that define you? Because it's very, very important. And a lot of us don't do it. And so this helps you to know, what are my skill sets? What are my skill gaps? What do I need to update? What do I need to adjust? And all of that. And then you can update your knowledge. Now, knowledge is just knowledge. It's not understanding. So getting knowledge doesn't necessarily mean you're specializing in it. How do I break it down for you? So knowledge is me knowing about facts or something, right? For example, a fact is water boils at 100 degrees centigrade or Celsius or whatever it is, right? That is knowledge, right? Now, what is the understanding? The understanding is what makes the water boil at this degree? Why is it that liquid dissipates when there's so much energy under it? That is the understanding, right? Now, there's the wisdom part, such that when I see hot water, I can say it is at this point of hot water that I can pour into my gari to make eba. It is at this point of hot water that I can pour into my tea and it sips the most. It is at this point of hot water that I can give my children to take and they will not scald them. That is wisdom. Wisdom is strategy. So now you've updated your knowledge. That is knowledge, right? You may not necessarily have understanding and the wisdom in it. The understanding comes when you are reviewing and refreshing your personal brand. And the wisdom comes in the strategy in which you are putting out your personal brand. So you're now looking, what am I about? A big example is Ibukun Omololu. What am I about? I'm basically about gender, right? But what does that mean to you? It's really about value. When I get on a gender project, I deliver value in such a way that what people did not see, I am bringing it on. And at the end of the day, the work, the insights and the wisdom I bring to that work, right, gives outstanding results. And I do this effortlessly. Example, sometime this year, an organization reached out to me and they wanted me to do something with them, and they asked me to do it to volunteer. I wanted them to pay me. The volunteering wasn't the work, right? It was the fact that they reached out to me just 2 weeks before. You can't tell me you want me to do something for you and they are reaching out to me 2 weeks before. You need to give me enough time. And I told them that you don't do things like this. They thought maybe I was being difficult, but I had to do is sit down with them and I broke it down for them. And after I broke it down, they're like, we didn't see it this way, but please, we want you to do it, because they could see value. So I did it for them and I said I was doing it for free. Guess what? 2 weeks after I finished it, they came back and said, we have to pay you. We are so sorry, but we have to pay you. We were blown away. That is because I was able to understand the knowledge that I needed. I was able to update the knowledge I needed, understand that knowledge and get the wisdom from it such that I can apply it on projects. And then I used that to review and refresh my personal brand. So if you're reaching out to me, you have to give me 1 month notice to be able to do things. Ask Irene how long it took her. Irene was so intentional. She reached out 2 months to me before. So this helps you to review and refresh your personal brand. So what's your personal brand about? And this is just an aspect of my personal brand. How do I show up? How do I show up on LinkedIn? How do I show up wherever I go? Because if I'm going to come to you, I'm going to do a branded deck. I am going to look at the knowledge. I'm going to look at that sector and bring out more wisdom from it that you didn't even think of and you didn't even know. So those are the things that helps you to review and refresh your personal brand. I am all about value. I'm all about professionalism. I'm all about expertise. So how do I show up as that? How does a person of value or expertise and professionalism show up? What is the background of even where I'm having my meeting? What does it look like? How do you show up? So those are the things that help you to review and refresh your personal brand. What are you about? It's not just going to writing on LinkedIn, hey, I was invited here or this. And, we've even messed it up a lot on LinkedIn that people are just writing all sorts of things, whether it's true or not. It doesn't matter if it's not true. But what is the strategy? What is the wisdom that you're bringing about in putting out your personal brand? Because it's not just about showing up every day, and you're not waiting. There's nothing in you, but you're just showing up because everybody is showing up. There's no wisdom or strategy behind it. What are you trying to achieve? And I can tell you that even the way I show up, I don't post every day, but the people who need me look for me. They get into my DMs and they're inviting me for mind-blowing projects. So it's not about showing up every day. It's not about following. I mean, it's okay to get wisdom, and there are people who will give you wisdom on some things. But let me tell you this thing, if you really want to get into the core of this thing, self-assess well, define your self-purpose well, and put it up to God and see if it won't work. Next, you need to reconnect and expand your network. A lot of us burn bridges when we leave. While I don't advocate for people to do that, right? I also believe that God orders the steps of people. So if you burnt bridges, right, just ask for God to help you to reconnect those bridges. And if it's not those bridges he wants to reconnect, help him to ask him to bring the right people to your space, right? Now, a lot of us have people in our phones, our WhatsApp, our contacts, and so many other places that are the next step to your next level, but we don't even connect with them on a good day. So one of the things I used to do back then when I was transiting back into the workplace was I started to check up on people. I had a specific day of the week that I would check up on people. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not able to do it as much, but I still check up on people. And I'll send out messages to people. And this is a very good time to do it. Nigeria is not funny right now. People are losing their minds. People can't feed. People are going through a lot. This is a good time to actually put out messages to people, not because of what you're trying to get out of them. Please, again, I've told you, wisdom, right, is strategy. The strategy should be you genuinely looking out for the well-being of people, not exactly what you can get out of them. It will never come if it's something you want to get out of them. It will never come. You have to genuinely care for people. So what I used to do then was I would write out messages. How are you today? Just checking up on you. And I'm not asking you to respond back with the normal fine. I am asking you, how are you internally? What has life thrown? What curveball has life thrown at you that is getting you down? If you ever need somebody to speak with or somebody to talk to, I'm here. And sometimes the whole of Wednesdays, I'm just there listening to people or comforting people or just trying to make people laugh or just reconnecting with people. Trust me, there's nothing like it. And do that for like the next 3-4 weeks and you find out that, and it's WhatsApp, it's free. You can, it's a strategy. Again, I say it's wisdom. Connect with people like 4 or 5 times, and then you see they will ask you, so what are you even up to these days? What is this? What is that? And then you can start talking to them, and you will be so amazed how people would be willing to help you. Sometime last month, I was reaching out to, like I told you, I still do it, but I don't do it to the number of people I used to do it to before, because the number of people in my DM is crazy. I'll probably spend the next 2 days attending to people. But I just reached out to some of the women in my network, and I was just like, how you doing? This and that and all of that. And one of them reached out and was like, oh, I'm a product manager. I'm looking for an opportunity and all of that and this and that. And I was like, yeah, okay, no problem if I see something. Guess what? In the next 10 minutes, 3 people sent me 3 product management opportunities, product manager opportunities. And I was just like, okay, I'm a trained product manager myself, but I'm not really doing product manager except when I'm doing gender projects. So instantly, I just sent it to her. And she was like, what? Well, yes, I said, no, it just happened that way. She said, please be checking out for me some more. Be checking up on me some more and all of that. And last week, she responded to me that she had been invited by one of those places for an interview. And I was already helping her, like, hey, do you have an interview script? What's your framing like? How do you prepare? What are the questions that you prepare for before you even get to that? Have you studied the organization? Have you researched them? Have you asked who's going to be interviewing you? Because a lot of us too don't even have strategies for interviews. They've called us for interview, you just go. You don't know who you're meeting with. You don't know the key priorities of the organizations that you're getting into that interview so that you can talk on. You haven't researched on what are the groundbreaking techniques in this space right now that you can actually speak to, that you've studied, that you know, you understand. And you can also bring in insight, wisdom into it, such that by the time you get to that interview, they are like, we want her now. And I'm not telling you things I didn't. Look, by the time I did all of these things I told you, and if I had not volunteered, she would have never known. So you gain experience through that. And it was at that point that I led the biggest team I'd ever led in my life. In fact, I still today. So please gain experience through volunteering and freelance work. And the way to know what kind of volunteering and freelance work you will need is from assessing your skills and update knowledge, which is the knowledge, which is number 2 up. It is from there you will know what kind of experience do I need? What kind of people do I need to work with? And of course, you tailor your job search strategy. So by the time you know that this is kind of where my trajectory is going, these are the kind of jobs I want, right? Then you now start looking for jobs in that space. Who are the people who will need this kind of job description, right? Who are the organizations that would volunteer, that would need these people? So many of you have identified the top 10 organizations that you feel your core values align with, and is the next best place for you to go. And this is what you're going to get out of it, right? Because for me, it wasn't too much about the money. It was about the experience. I wanted that experience like mad, that let me just get in. Let me just see how they do their things. Let me just see the thought process. Let me just get access on how they do things. And trust me, I use those things everywhere, and people's jaw drop. God, how did you do this? Where did you come from? People ask, are you human? Do you sleep? People ask me every time, how do you think? And I don't owe it to myself, it's just God. Because I will sit down with that thing. I will read it. I will know the knowledge. Then I will get the understanding. Then I will get the wisdom. Because it's the wisdom that pays. So all that one that you're looking for, highest paying job, forget it. Work on yourself. And this is what helps you to tailor your job search strategy. Then you prepare for your interviews and address the gap. So if people are asking you, why did you take a work break? For example, they've asked me so many times, guys, why did you leave banking? So you understand that you clearly write it down, then you frame it well for an interview. So that when you're speaking about it, you're not just saying, oh, I was out of work for 1 year. Oh, what in the world? Why would you say it like that? I was out of work for 1 year. Why? No, I took a career break to work on the skills gap and all of that, at the same time to also get a bit of balance with my family and all of that. And by the time you say it, even they too like, oh, they will respect you for it. So it's very, very important for us to prepare for the interviews. A lot of us don't prepare for interviews. I had a friend who told me, oh, she's been out of work for about a year, and then the bank called her and she was like, yeah, they're calling me for this and that. So I said, okay, so what's your strategy for the interview? And she said, strategy like how? Like, this interview I'll go. I said, so what questions are you preparing for? She said she doesn't know. So I sent her my interview script, a template that I had for myself. Don't ask for it. And she was like, eh? She said, what is this? She said, in my life, I have never. Say, hey, God. She said, this is how you prepare for interview? I said, ha. She said, no wonder nobody is calling me back. What are your achievements? The last speaker spoke on achievements. How many of you have your achievements list? You may not even, let me tell you, when she spoke, I just smiled because I knew the design thinking behind what she was doing. I knew the understanding of what she was doing. You need your lion and the bear moment. And then I sat down one day after I spoke to my uncle and he said, what are your accomplishments within the space when you were in this organization? And I couldn't see anything. So I sat down and I started to write down my accomplishments. When I finished, I got up and I said, I will never be poor again in my life. I did this. I didn't even know half the things that I had done because I didn't have my lion and the bear moments. So I started, after I finished it, I now started my lion and the bear moments since I was a child. What are the things that I did that were outstanding, that I accomplished? And I started to write them down, including the course I studied, including what I got out of school, including the talents I had, including the things people told me. I wrote them down so much. So anytime anybody wants to rubbish me, I go back to my lion and the bear moment. And then you need to build a support system. Now, look, this support system is more important than you can ever think. There is no success, right? As a family woman, there's no success outside your family. And I'll touch on that a bit on the last slide. I am getting to that. You need a support system, first of all, from your family. Your husband should be a big part of your success. And look, I'm not being unrealistic. I know some of us do not have great relationship with our husbands and all, right? If your husband is not there to do that for you, right? What are the friends in your circle? Who are the friends in your circle? Who are the other people that are support structure for you? This group in itself is a support structure. So are you able to talk about your vulnerabilities? Are you able to share your wins and everybody's genuinely happy for you and all of that? Are you able to share your problems? Like, this is the issue. And because, look, you don't want to be a woman who succeeds alone. You really don't want to be a woman who succeeds alone. You need that support structure. Because there'll be times when you'll be down. There'll be times when you need to celebrate and you need people to celebrate with you. There'll be times when you need people to just say, Ibukun, you've got this. That's all you need. Ibukun, you've got this. Do it. We are rooting for you. We are behind you. And we're praying for you. So you need to build that support system. My own first support system is my family. It's my husband, it's my sons. I have 2 boys. So they are always, today when I told my son that I'm having a training and all of that, he said, oh, mommy, should I help you with your laptop? Should I do this? Should I do that? By the time I was ready, he was going out with his dad. He said, mommy, do you need anything before? I said, no, he's just 6 years old. I said, no. He said, okay, I love you, mommy. Take care of yourself. Toodles. You can imagine what that does for me coming here. So your support system is very key. Very, very, very key. And if you have the support system in your family, please cherish it. If you don't have it, don't demean it. Just tell God, I want this. I want this kind of support from my husband. I want this kind of support from my family. What do I need to do? Because I intentionally build it. It's not easy. You can ask anybody I work with. I work hard, but I'm also very vested in my family. I don't play with my children. I don't play with my husband. I don't play with my family. So they know. And then set realistic expectations and be patient. These things takes time. What you need to now do is that it will take time. What will you be doing to fill that time? What courses would you take? Patience. So what are you using your time for? Because I knew I had to be patient. I didn't even know I was going to wait that long before the job would come. But I started to do those things. And when I put them on my CV, they're like, what? You've done this? You have this experience? This is so interesting. There's nobody that sees my CV now and they're like, oh my God, this is so impressive. So please set realistic expectations and be patient because those are the things that you really need. So the last part of relaunching, and after you've done that, then you can now relaunch your career. You can now say, this is what I'm posting about on LinkedIn. This is how I'm going to put out myself. This is how I'm going to show up and all of that. Now, as you relaunch your career, 3 things I want you to bear in your mind. And I'm reiterating this. Your family, husband and children, are a major part of your success. They are a major part of your success. I wouldn't have gone this far in my life without my husband not living a competitive life with me and supporting me. There are times when I wasn't around to take the children for shots. Their hospital visit was my husband because I was in MPR meetings and there's no success outside this husband and children. Of all the titles I bear most, it's not lead researcher of tutory or this thing at Value for Women or something. No. His mother, his wife and mother. Then utilize extensively your natural female traits. Don't go there to be like a man. I'm not saying go to male-dominated fields and start crying. That's not what I'm saying. It took me time to learn these things, right? Where people are contentious and are looking at it like this. Me, I'm even soft-spoken and everything. So people can come and they're like, and after you've shown your skills and everything, then I'll now break down the knowledge for you. Then you will now sit down and listen. And I don't have time. And if I get to a negotiation table too, I know what I do. How many of you know what you do? Because you get a negotiating table and they will do it like this, back, and you just say, 500,000, yeah. You've not matched up what is the price in the industry. You've not matched up how much does this go for. You've not done your calculations or what is the overhead, what is the level of expertise I'm bringing and all. And again, set realistic timelines and expectation for your career milestones. What a lot of people don't tell you is that these things take time. You see people who over-exaggerate what they are doing on LinkedIn and you feel that it's an overnight thing. No, it takes time. So set realistic expectations. In the next 2 years, I would like to be in this field. In the next 2 years, I want to be the most sought after. One of my vision board is that I'm one of the most sought after gender experts in the world. And it's happening already. They are looking for me and they will continue to look for me. Nations will find me. These are some of the affirmations some of you should be saying. There's a place with my name on it. There's a position with my name on it. There's a position that will influence policies and influence people in Africa, in Nigeria, with my name on it. And this is exactly how you need to be able to work on it. So, leaving you with some reflections. What has resonated with you based on this workshop? And I want you to write it down. You may not necessarily write it down in the chat, but what has resonated with you? Because oftentimes when we see things, right, you say, we like it, but why do you like it? You did not analyze what exactly is the thing that made you like it, and what is it that speaks to you out of it. Fire more thoughts and reflection on your part. What do you need to work on? Because we've mixed up this thing. We've mixed up this thing like it's the people who are traveling. Yo, I traveled here and I was at hunger. I was like, what is the point of you being at hunger? And nothing happened. That your policies did not influence it, and you spent millions of dollars to travel there to gather in a place and it didn't. It's not people. I'm not beefing anybody. But why do you have the power to change things and your policies are not influencing? Why? What does success look like for you in your career? Is it all about the money the organization can pay you? Is it where you will find development, professional development, and can get good skills and work with good people who genuinely care about you? Because it's not all about money. Then what do you think you will do differently? What have you been doing wrong that you've identified now that, there's no wisdom in this thing I've been doing? Maybe I should have a template for preparing for interview. What does that even look like? Where should be my starting point? Some of us don't even know how to use it. Draft a template, draft an interview template for me with possible, or it starts with, I'm even giving you prompts. I am applying for this role at so company and this and this and that and that. Draft an interview template for me that outlines some of the possible questions I should prepare for, and draft sample answers for these questions. Then when you now get it, you've seen how the answers are, then tweak it with your own answers. I never write anything that is not true. So I don't put up things that is not, your achievements don't matter if it is not true. Please, it doesn't make sense. Don't go and be writing things that your achievement don't matter if it's not true. So what should you do? How should you do that? Then some of you is your CV. What should come up first in my CV? Should it be my school? Should it be my responsibilities? Should it be my achievements before responsibilities? Think about it logically, sequentially, like if I was a recruiter, what are the first things I'll be looking out for? Do I have friends in HR? Let me speak to them. What do they even look out for? Those are things you will do differently. And then if there are questions that, I don't know how to answer this question, please, let's set up a meeting with so person that will tell us how to answer this question, or how should we deflect this, and all of that. Those are the ways you go about it. So what will you do differently? I encourage us all to really take our time and think about all these things. It's a lot of reflection, internal reflection, and making changes. Those are the things that help. Don't do anything wishy-washy, and put it in the hands of God and see if God won't, direct your path. So I really want to thank you for the time. You can connect with me by sending me a mail or connecting with me on LinkedIn at any of those with those handles, or on Instagram. I'll be happy to take your questions or reflections or anything you need help with. And if you also want to reach out to the company for any gender projects in your organization or whatever organization you're going through, please feel free to reach out. You will get the deck. It was designed for you. I don't have, there's no point in me holding on to it. So, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you so much, IBK. Thank you so, so much. Listening to you, everything is beginning to make sense.
There's one question here. How do you know, identify your purpose or assignments you should be doing? And then I see Adefunke Michael raising her hand as well. So you are thinking about children. What is it about children? Number one, what are the opportunities in this space? Please, again, I tell you to go and look at skills of the 21st century skills of the future and the future of work. Go and look at those two resources, right? I know it might take some time for you to, this assignment I'm telling you is not one day. This, my definition, it took me maybe 5 months, but I was opening it consistently and working on it. After 2 days, maybe I'll leave it for another 3 days, then something just dropped in my head that, go and write this, Abike. I'll quickly go, write it, type it. So what does this mean? How do I synthesize this? Can you see that it's not small work? When I say I synthesize information, connecting the dots is the same thing you should be doing. You will connect the dots for yourself. Because the honest truth, I can't answer all your questions for you, but I can lead you to the answers. So when you write children, what are the opportunities in this children's space? Off the top of my head, I can see a child psychologist. I can see children development experts. I can see, and let me tell you, these things are serious work abroad, where they look for development experts and things. Look, one of the places you can work is Save the Children. If you don't know them, go and Google it now. And there are several other places that UNICEF, one of the places, go and look at the people, what qualifications do they have? What do I need to do? What kind of specialization is required, right? If you are thinking about career in that space, if you're not starting a business, I've kind of narrowed it down for you, right? You have something for children. And there's so many things. It could be even an education specialist. You know, by the time I finished the training I did for one organization, they are teachers. They wrote me, they said in our lives, we've never seen a teaching framework like yours before. Because when I was doing, I said, you can't do it this way, you can't do it this way. This is what I need you to give them. This is what I need you to give them. When we finished that training, hey God, my DM busted. People were, and I was like, it's just training. It's not crusade. It's just training. But people were so energized that they were like, God bless. This is so refreshing. This is the kind of thing we need for our education system. Am I in the education system? I'm not. So please, this is what you will write down. Child psychologist, child development expert, nutrition or whatever in children. Just look at it. Write it down. What does this mean? What is the qualification for it? Which one aligns to me? Sleep on it. Pray on it. Go to some of those conferences. Look at the people that are there. So people just jump conference, fear of missing out. We are not being strategic. Again, I said wisdom. Strategy is wisdom. Look at it and say, what qualification does this person have? Where can this person work? And then start looking out for those opportunities. Start taking those certifications. Start working on it. So that's how you do it. If you are in the child space, then please, by all means, look for careers within the child space and say, how can I build something here? And how can I build expertise here? As a matter of fact, I feel Nigerians need a lot of children experts now because there's a lot of abuse out there. There's so much nonsense going on, even in the education system, and how teachers teach children and all of that. So what is it about children that makes you stand out and all of that? So that is how you do it. You identify your purpose, like, what am I on this earth for? What resonates deeply with me? In identifying my purpose, it was women. I don't like women not to be knowledgeable. I don't like women not to be able to seize opportunities. I don't like women to be cheated. I don't like women to be helpless or feel marginalized. Why? Because when I was growing up, I saw it play out in several women around me and all of that. And I started questioning, like, is this how this thing should be? And so those are the things that were fueling it. And then what is the problem? First of all, in the workplace, a lot of organizations are saying we are gender forward. What does that mean? How do they do it? They don't know. They need help. How do they do that? I have done that in several organizations. So I know this is part of the things I'm going to do. Gender-based violence. Let me not even start on that one today, because if I take it to another extent, all of you will be scared. Gender-based violence, by the time I got into it, the dimensions that God started to show me, dimensions I started to bring out, when I teach people about it, they're like, Ibukun, there's fire on the mountain. Yes, so there is fire on the mountain. How did I know that was what I was supposed to be doing? It was burning in my heart. And I had solutions. I was creating, nobody sent me work. I will be creating templates. This is how you can do it. Who sent me? How do I not know my assignment and my purpose and what I should be doing? Gender. I live and breathe gender, including men, because God has now told me it's not just about women. It's a balanced gender perspective. How many people are speaking about gender, balanced gender perspective? A lot of men are even excluded. So how will I not know my purpose? And to crown it, is now giving me solutions. This is the solution for this. This is the solution for this. So that is how you will know. But you have to itemize it, write it, break it down, remove some, edit, refine, write it. Do a definition. Who is Onyade? I wasn't the last born by accident. It was intentional. God wanted me to be a last born. He wanted me to understand what it was like to be the last born in a family and to see how a family functions. And I saw it. And I've taken those things into my family, and people come and say, I love the way, as strangers, I'm traveling and people I don't know just come and meet me and say, you are doing a great job. You have a wonderful family. And I'm like, how will I not know my assignment and purpose? People will compliment you for it. You will see it. You will know. So please start. I'm not saying you will get all the answers today. As a matter of fact, I'll be lying to you if I tell you get it, but you will get some good answers that are, I've been sitting on this thing since. Just start. So I really hope that I have answered your question. I know I've taken time, but I had to break it down as well.
Thank you so much. You did a fantastic job. Even the questions that were not asked, you were able to preempt the questions ahead, and you did a fantastic job giving all these gems away for free. In fact, there is no way I could have given you a brief that will capture all of these things. And for Temitope also, you did a. If I'm just so blessed, I'm so blessed to have you guys. I don't know how I could have called this favor, but you guys came on board without giving me stress. In fact, all the speakers that came on Power Mom Support Circle, not one person gave stress. It was such a seamless, wonderful experience, and that's how I knew that really this wasn't just a pet project. This was a divine assignment, and it was all well curated from the ideation to execution. Even though we have some minor hitches here and there, but God is in this. Thank you so much, my dear sisters. I can't thank you enough. And today won't be over until there's this quote that kind of pumps my blood anytime I hear it, and every woman needs to hear this. Really, it's a poem by Marianne Williamson. It says, "You might have." Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not sell the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so others won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So there's just that thing you had, that spark you have. Sometimes you knew it when you were a child and we lost it somehow as we're growing up, the societal expectations. And I just want us to dig back into those moments of childhood, those inspired thoughts we have. There's something in it for you. There is something God wants you to do. And if you don't do that, you are not giving other people permission to do so. So in picking up those sparks, in nurturing them, you're also giving other people permission to do same. Thank you all once again for coming on this project. Thank you, my dear sisters, for speaking to us from your hearts. This is so beautiful. We are super honored. We're super humbled by your presence. On behalf of myself and everyone, once again, we say thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And the good Lord bless you and increase the work of your hands. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all, everyone. We've come to the end of today's show. And we just listened to Ibukun Omololu and Temitope Gbenro. So you're free to leave now, or you're free to listen to our anthem if you want to. So this is me saying goodbye. Focusing on closing gender gaps and driving social economy. Bye-bye.
We rise, we shine today. Together we pave the way. Breaking fears, breaking chains. Strength in numbers we aim. Skills we build, we grow. Upscale every flow. Talents, pride we showcase. In the space we find grace. Support circle, we stand tall. Women power, breaking walls. No quotas, just pure might. Shining through every fight. As we sway, every skill, every art, together we make a mark. Breaking norms, breaking seals, true power we reveal. Not just numbers on the board, but talent finally roared. Support circle, we stand tall. Women power, breaking walls. No quotas, just pure might. Shining through every fight. As we sway, every skill, every art, together we make our mark. Breaking norms, breaking seals, true power we reveal. Not just numbers on the board, but talent finally roared. Support circle, we stand tall. Women power, breaking walls. No quotas, just pure might. Shining through every fight.